I came from the mud.
Someone recently left a very reasonable comment asking if it was possible to plate a stainless steel Cybertruck in real 24 karat gold. And personally, I think that's a very scientific and educational question worth answering. After doing some basic math, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we realized that it would take about $60,000 worth of gold to accomplish the whole task. That's not including labor, but luckily Ridge Wallet, the same wallet I've had in my pocket for the last 5 years, happened to have a Cybertruck that they want plated and is willing to foot the bill for all of the gold. So here we are. This is an extremely expensive video for Ridge Wallets, but an extremely educational video for us. And rumor on the street is they're actually gonna give this truck away at some point, which makes the process of gold plating all the more fascinating. First thing you gotta do when gold plating your Cybertruck is remove all the exterior trim pieces, along with the side sensors and of course the side mirrors. We need as much access to the bare stainless steel as possible. Adding the gold is extremely easy while at the same time being extraordinarily difficult. There are 3 basic steps. We have something called an electro cleaner. This sponge right here is saturated with liquid and there's an anode attached to it, which I'll get to in a second. Basically, it's like super concentrated dish soap that when put over the Cybertruck makes it hydrophilic, meaning that liquids are gonna cling to its surface because everything that's happening today has to be in the water so it can be electrically conductive. Without electricity, nothing is possible. Step number 2, we have something called a Tri-Val Gold Strike, and this thing is pretty intense. Put on my safety glasses here. This is basically an acid which etches the surface of the stainless steel. Remember that step number 2 has a blue handle. This will also deposit a very thin, almost non-visible flash of gold over the surface, which is like the building blocks for which the gold will cling to in step number 3. Stainless steel is actually a relatively difficult material to plate, and so this Tri-Val acid etch is what makes the whole thing possible. The same thing that makes stainless steel so universally useful is the thin layer of oxidation, the silver colored oxidation on the outside that keeps it from rusting. That same thing makes it very difficult to plate, and the acid is what pokes little holes in that chromium so that the gold will stick to it later on. It removes that very thin layer of oxidation and deposits the gold like little Legos before it can re-oxidize. And again, this guy has an anode attached to it because again, electricity is what makes all of this possible. Even though it's purple, this is 99.7 pure bright 24 karat gold. There's a little bit of cobalt in there as the hardener, and again, electricity is what makes all of this possible. If I were to just smear the purple goop right onto the Cybertruck, nothing would happen. This whole process is called electroplating. You might remember previously where we bath plated an Apple Watch in real 24 karat gold, as well as made a gold toothbrush. Bath plating is where we submerge objects in liquid to make all this happen, and is what's most commonly used with like jewelry. But since we don't have a bath plating beaker system big enough for a Cybertruck, electro brush plating is the method we are choosing. When we take electricity and pass it through the positive electrode, this is made with platinized titanium, it'll go through the Cybertruck and into the negative electrode, which is just some copper strips that have been plated with gold attached to a magnet. I wish I could take credit for all of this science, but we're actually working with a company called Gold Plating Services, and this is their proprietary process with their proprietary solutions. And so far, it's working fantastic. And we have all 3 of these steps mounted right here on a cart, all powered with an EcoFlow battery. It looks like we have the electro cleaner running at 12 volts, the Tri-Val running at 6.5, and the 24 karat gold plate is going on at 5.2, all of which have the electrodes on the brushes going onto the Cybertruck. Our setup is a jumbo-sized version of Gold Plating Services Universal Plater, as well as their bath plating setup. It's the same technology, just in much larger quantities. Part of the reason for the sponge on the electrode is not just to hold the electroplating solution, but it's also to keep distance from the metal inside the electrode and the metal of the stainless steel truck, because metal and metal would short out, not leaving us with enough electricity to facilitate that chemical reaction. And honestly, it's looking pretty good. I'm sure bugs of all sizes will be honored to have the privilege of splattering across this grill. One thing we learned the hard way during this process is if the trival acid, the step number 2, ever gets caught underneath the magnet, the current passing underneath that magnet will just cook the gold and the acid onto the surface of the Cybertruck, which is removable if we polish it, but it's been something we have to keep an eye on, making sure that the acid doesn't stay in one spot for too long. That acid is only there to immediately etch the surface and then get washed away so we can deposit the gold. I think it's fascinating that the gold is mimicking the surface that it's being plated on. The Cybertruck just naturally has a matte or satin sheen to it, and the gold is getting applied in exactly the same way, while also mirroring the same imperfections that the stainless steel might have itself. For example, I don't know if you can see it in this light, but one of the roller machines in this particular area, beyond the crease, there's a seam that goes through both pieces of metal, and that will shine through the gold. And just like a gold bar has tarnish or imperfections, the real gold getting applied to real metal just make this so much more realistic than a gold wrap. It's a rather tedious process that's just as much of an art form as it is a science. We've had 3 people working all day long for about 4 days straight. I would say the most difficult part, besides making sure the volts and amperage is correct, is making sure that the metal stays wet during the entire process. The electricity is only going to pass through liquid, and if the metal gets dry, that particular place won't get plated, which means we have to polish it off and start over with the electro cleaning. Once the gold has adhered to the stainless steel, we can keep on covering the same area to get the gold as thick as we want. And all I'm saying is, it'll be a travesty of cosmic proportions when the first bird poops on this thing. Took us about an hour and a half to get those 2 door panels done, but I think they turned out fantastic. Check that out. Holy smokes. This is gonna look so good when we get this top piece on there. And then I'm really excited to see how this foundation series turns out with the gold finish over top. Wow. I'm not sure how they added foundation series on there, laser etching or something, but the way the gold doesn't stick to it just makes it pop so much more. That looks so good. Wow. When we're gold plating the stainless steel panels, if our electrodes are on one panel, the other panel will not plate. So now we're gonna do the single piece that crosses over both of the windows, the passenger windows, and then we will be done with this whole side of the truck. Between each of the steps, we are spraying down the surface of the Cybertruck with some deionized water, which is basically water without any minerals inside of it, so that it doesn't interfere with the gold plating process or leave any deposits on the surface of the steel, since minerals are sometimes conductive and we want to limit which minerals we're playing with. And the farther we get, the crazier this thing looks. The polish on this is just insane. The gold is mimicking the material underneath it, of course, but wow. We're gonna clean up all these drips later, but the gold is looking fantastic. We aren't the first people to dream of electroplating an entire vehicle out of gold. If you remember, the DeLoreans back in the day were also stainless steel and had a special edition run of an entire 24-karat gold-plated series. I'm not sure how many were sold, but they were plated in the exact same way that we're plating this Cybertruck today. So you might be asking, hey Jerry, why does a wallet company have a Cybertruck? And the answer to that question is that they are going to be giving this truck away to somebody, but that is all I know at the moment, and I'll have a link in the description for more details when those arrive. What I do know, however, is that Ridge Wallet also has 24-karat gold-plated wallets for sale on their website, along with a gold-plated pen and a gold-plated keyring. The interesting thing about these wallets, though, is that we know that gold mimics the surface they're plated on, so this is a much more matte finish than what we have here on the Cybertruck, which is already a satin, and they are both plated in 24-karat real gold. I'll put a link for this down in the description. If you need a gift for Father's Day, this would make an excellent addition. And huge thanks to Ridge for sponsoring this video and making the world's first gold-plated Cybertruck a reality. Gold plating is measured in micro-inches. A decorative plate, like someone would put on a trophy, would be around 8 or 10 micro-inches, where jewelry grade, if you're plating grandma's wedding ring or a necklace, it would be upwards of 20 micro-inches, which is what we're doing here on the Cybertruck. Remember, I'm not an expert gold plater, but when the gold is refined and deposited into the purple toothpaste-like solution, it's dissolved in a way to where the gold is missing some electrons. So when we connect it to electricity and the gold ions come in contact with the surface that's been charged with excess electrons, that voltage potential creates a cathode reaction, and the gold ions recover their missing electrons, and the gold returns to its metallic state, a crystalline structure permanently attached to the stainless steel. This is not a painting process or a dyeing process. The gold plating is leaving a literal layer of gold on top of the stainless steel. We obviously aren't done yet. If you take a look from the outside, we're still missing some mirrors and fenders, which we'll install afterwards. It's definitely weird driving around the world's most expensive Cybertruck. I mean, it still costs less than a Lamborghini, but a gold-plated Cybertruck is rather extravagant. We're taking the truck over to my buddies at Lux Automotive, where they can put on a protective skin to keep the gold undamaged for the next decade. Protection is always a good thing. I want to preserve this gold plating for whoever ends up winning the truck, keeping the surface protected from rock chips on the freeway, going off-roading, or even, car washes. Before we can apply the optically clear, self-healing Lumar paint protection film, which is made here in the USA, our golden Cybertruck needs to be completely clean and dust-free. Even though the Cybertruck does not have any paint, the layer of gold we applied is still scratchable, just like jewelry. And just like a screen protector keeps a phone screen scratch-free, this pre-cut 11mm thick PPF will keep the gold pristine. And wildly enough, if the Lumar PPF itself gets scratched, heat from the sun self-heals smaller abrasions, so they disappear automatically. Wetting the surface of the truck allows the film to slide around and get placed before the liquid underneath is squeegeed out and the transparent wrap is secured for the next decade. It has a 10-year warranty and is looking fantastic. The golden patina is shining through like some weathered pirate loot. And to further make the gold pop, we're adding a top-of-the-line Formula One Stratos nano-ceramic window tint. Besides just looking cool, Stratos blocks 99% of UV and 97% of infrared heat from the sun, which helps keep the cabin cool and literally gives the Cybertruck more range, since the battery's not working as hard to maintain the cabin temperature. With glass slabs this large, the Cybertruck is just a giant easy-bake oven on wheels, unless it has the ceramic tint to keep the sun at bay. And finally, a coating of Modesta BCX to gloss up and protect even the protection. We've got more levels of security on this gold Cybertruck than Fort Knox. Ridge Wallets said to hand out their gold-plated pins and wallets like candy to the guys working on the truck.
Thanks, dude.
Sweet, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Seriously.
Since applying the tint and clear wrap is just as much of an art form as electroplating the gold. And it's been a pleasure to work with the professionals over at Lux Automotive and gold plating services on this epic project. The real 24-karat gold Cybertruck is finally finished. Now back to my shop for the reveal. Between the gold plating and the clear protection, I have successfully increased the value of the Ridge giveaway truck by at least $100,000. When they give away this truck, it is going to be crazy. Grab a gold-plated wallet of your own down in the video description, and if you want to complete the collection, there's a very limited edition gold-plated jerry-rig everything knife with 100% of the proceeds going towards the air compressor system in my wheelchair factory. And Elon, if you want me to gold-plate a Starship, just say the word. Thanks a ton for watching, and I'll see you around.
I was gonna say, you totally gotta get those sound effects.